Hello and welcome back to Civil Discourse. This is a program sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida, and my name is Ken Hurley. And on this program, we discuss topics of the day that involve civil rights and civil liberties. And one day we might have a discussion as to what the difference is between civil rights and civil liberties, because there is a technical difference that if you go to law school, you spend a couple of semesters trying to understand that. It's a good debate. Today I want to just, and what this program allows us to do is to talk about many different things in a civil manner, civil discourse. And I want to talk today with a good friend of mine, a person I've known a long time in Jacksonville. He knows Jacksonville probably as well as anybody in the great city of Jacksonville. He is a man who is a former Florida state representative. He is the former president of the Concerned Taxpayers of Duval County, a group who has been recently tagged with the moniker the Radical Fringe by our mayor, John Payton. And I happen to think that might be an honor, because if you look at the word radical, it actually comes from the Latin that means root, which means fundamental. And to be on the fringe is to be opposed to some of the status quo, and the status quo in terms of what is happening here in Jacksonville regarding fiscal responsibility is something that we might want to challenge, and I think our guest is going to spend some time discussing that. You're a graduate of Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. Dartmouth, that's an interesting moniker for this gentleman too. A Dartmouth, and he is the host of, and I quote, Florida's best, most timely, most heated, most fun, most constructive, most prescient, and most efficacious political and public policy live radio call-in talk show ever, period. And the man's name is Andy Johnson with Down to Business Andy Johnson, and you can be heard on the radio on AM 970 practically every weeknight, and I'm happy that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to be here with me on Civil Discourse. Thanks, Andy.
Ken, it's good to be here, and of course I consider that I am a member of the ACLU and that everyone is a member of the ACLU. Some folks just don't pay their dues.
Well, thank you for that.
We're all members of the ACLU.
Thank you. A lot of people misunderstand what the ACLU is about, and they have some certain preconcepts. And when I go around and make my speeches and get invited to talk in colleges and universities and civic groups, one of the basic things that I see and what I've learned is we have such a dearth of education regarding what civil rights are, what the Constitution allows, and it's an ongoing discussion, something I wish we would teach people in junior high school and continue to teach that until their education is completed, which basically is a lifelong thing. And that's what you have done. You've gotten involved in education and political matters and involved in all sorts of civic responsibilities, and you're so busy. Tell me about the Concerned Taxpayers. Are there such a thing as taxpayers who are not concerned?
The Concerned Taxpayers group is a small group. But again, like the ACLU, we consider that there are many people out there who are members who just didn't pay the dues. We're a very simple group. We're active in pushing the city government not to spend more money than it ought to spend, and to honor its promises, and to be a government with integrity. 4 years ago, the people of Jacksonville voted for a bond issue, and as part of the promise, John Delaney and his sidekicks went out and told the public, we guarantee you, etched in stone, feet in concrete, if you'll vote for this bond issue, we'll build a new courthouse, and we will not spend more than $190 million on this courthouse.
What's the tag today? I mean, do we know? Is it a running tag? Do we have a meter somewhere where it's clicking?
The newspaper keeps talking about it being $268 million, but that's not true. The mayor's plan, the Canon design plan, if you do it, is going to cost $325 million. And there is available right here in the community at least one group who's willing to build us a better courthouse for only $232 million, even including all the money that's already been wasted. And I don't care about that particular group. That's KBJ, a well-respected bunch of professionals, but I don't care. I'm not rooting for KBJ. It's just that if somebody can do it for $232, maybe there are a lot of folks who could do it for $232. I think we need to kill the current plan, put it back out for bids again, and see maybe there are 3 or 4 or 5 guys who can do it for $232.
I never understood why the courthouse has to be as large and as elaborate and as ostentatious as it has to be in the design that you see, and why it covers such a large footprint. That just doesn't make fiscal sense in terms of the growth of Jacksonville.
I don't see why we have to put so many people in jail. I don't see why we have to have quite so much activity. Right now, everybody's sort of rubbing their hands with glee that, oh boy, we can incarcerate more folks, lock them up, lock them up. It's sort of nuts. I'm against it for so many reasons. One is that the original spec said we're going to have an up and down courthouse that doesn't close city streets, won't take so much land.
Up and down meaning vertical as opposed to spread out everywhere.
Well,
right.
I would like them to just honor the original promise. We had a design competition. 4 different companies were in the design competition. 3 of them qualified. 3 of them met the specs. They chose the one company that did not meet the specs. So it's just fundamentally dishonest. It's unethical. It is a breach of this contract with the voters that John Delaney talked about so much, that there's a contract with the voters. Well, they've broken the contract. They're in default, and I'm fed up with it.
Why is the mayor calling concerned taxpayers a radical fringe group? I see these signs now everywhere, not everywhere, but a lot of places around Jacksonville that talks about those little like politician signs and yard signs.
Right.
That's from your group, I presume.
That's our group.
That's
well, I guess, I don't mean to sound too tacky about this, but I guess that if the mayor can't win on the merits, then you just start attacking us personally. I would be glad to debate the mayor, or since he's so important, I'd be glad to debate somebody he appoints, some surrogate. I'd be glad to debate anybody on the merits of what should we do with the courthouse. But if the debate is that, no, you're a jerk, no, you're an idiot, I mean, that we don't really get anywhere. That's not civil discourse. That's not very constructive. And I say that the mayor is not acting like a grown-up person for him to, instead of trying to win based upon the merits of this wonderful canon design, instead of talking to merits, he wants to just fling insults at us.
Well, I happened to watch recently a city council meeting. I didn't go to it, but they air them on television, I think right on this very station, Comcast Channel 29, which, by the way, you can watch Civil Discourse at this station, Channel 29, every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. But as I was watching the other night, I was watching city council. I saw several members of the Concerned Taxpayers organization speak during the 3-minute public hearings, and I was truly impressed with how well spoken the group is and how calm and what a poised demeanor these individuals had, even in the face of dealing with the kind of sort of hostilities, if you will.
It must have been when I wasn't there.
Oh, is it? All right. Are you the rabble rouser? Is that what it is?
No, I experiment. I don't know what works. I don't know whether we're supposed to just be very quiet and subservient, or if we're supposed to yell at them. I don't know what works, but I want to reach over there and grab these council members and shake them. What's wrong with you knuckleheads? You made a promise to the voters. How can you even talk about doing something different now? How can you do that?
Now, if we were in city council right now and you used the term knucklehead towards city council, would you now be escorted out by the JSO?
Yes.
Is that what they're actually talking about with Elaine Brown? Now, that's a fighting word.
Elaine Brown doesn't like the First Amendment very much.
And that's something the ACLU is going to be paying very close attention to, because if you use a term such as pinhead or knucklehead in the language that in the manner that you just be, and then they escorted you out, if they do that, that could be a problem.
Well, that's why I wanted to try the word here. I thought I could get away with it here. But at a city council meeting, I'd like to warn folks who go to council meetings, Elaine Brown, the president of the council, does not like the First Amendment and has now decreed that if you say something like pinhead or knucklehead or anything else that she considers to be insulting toward the council members generally or personally, or toward anybody else, not a council member, she will just kick you out of there.
Well, that makes her the arbitrator of what kind of speech that city council is willing to listen to, and that might actually be an impediment toward the dialogue that needs to be heard by city council. Sometimes these issues are very emotional, and sometimes the failure of the city council to act or to react to the calls of the citizenry is what creates this emotion.
Well, now Elaine Brown's up to something else that's even worse. She really doesn't like having the public come speak at council meetings. She really just...
Well, it must be a nuisance,
It is a big nuisance for her. She thinks life would be so much easier if we would just not show up and do this thing. Now, of course, the charter can be changed, and the council rules can be changed. But at this point, it's been a long-time tradition in Jacksonville that anybody is allowed to speak for 3 minutes at a council meeting. Elaine just doesn't like it. So one thing she's now considering doing is she may change the council meeting so that they're during the business day. Then that would be very convenient for the 3-piece suits who are hired to go down there and get whatever they want to get out of the council. That worked fine for the lobbyist, and it would make it pretty much impossible for most of the public to get to council meetings and to give them a dose at all.
Yeah, and they don't always schedule the public hearing part at a time that's convenient. And sometimes they'll change it right on the spot.
Yeah.
The agenda might say something, and it might go, and then they might change the agenda on the fly after having a vote to do so, or whatever they do, making it very difficult and aggravating for the public. And 3 minutes is it's per topic, right?
Yeah.
Which is not a very long time to be speaking.
Well, actually, normally it's 3 minutes total. No matter how many topics you want to talk about. Now, if there are official hearings that night for certain bills, and if you really have something to say about each of those different bills, you could go speak 3 minutes each time. But unless there is a hearing scheduled on the bill, even if you have 15 things to talk about, you've got 3 minutes. That's it. You've just got 3 minutes to do it.
Shouldn't City Council be finding ways to engage the public and bring the public in to weigh in on what the topics are? Aren't they the representatives of the public? Instead of finding ways to keep public out or to get the public arrested or taken out or escorted by JSO for calling City Council a knucklehead?
Well, we have 14 who are district council members. I think each of those ought to have a monthly town meeting back in their district where anybody can show up and say anything. It ought to be an open meeting. Come on, I want to hear it. There are a few council members who have a monthly meeting. It's not really open for the public to just say anything. It's usually pretty well structured. But most council members don't have town meetings at all. They just don't give the public any opportunity.
And so to do anything that would cause this town the opportunity for the public to speak, to shorten that or to make it more difficult is something we really don't want to see happen. We want to find ways to engage the public.
I think there needs to be
and
more
serve
public input.
The public. That's who elected them. They are representative of the people who put them in office. They're not there to tell the people what's going to happen. They have to supposedly listen to what the people are asking to have happen.
It wasn't very long ago, Ken, that most council members made a point of replying to all contact. If you sent them a letter or if you made a phone call or sent them email, whatever it was. 10 years ago, most council members made a point of replying in some fashion to all contact. Now, most council members, it's not, and things haven't changed that much. It's not as though that they now have some exponentially greater number of contacts or anything, but now most council members normally do not reply to most contact.
Which is also a problem. But what really concerns me is this whole fighting word thing that they're stirring back up. Again, was it Jerry Holland that did that about a year and a half or 2 years ago? He suggested it, and that got all voted down, and they went away from it. And now Elaine Brown is in the position, she's bringing it back up again. That's a big concern. But now you're down there with the concerned taxpayers, and you're actually saying in a very polite, methodical, civil discourse manner what your concerns are. And as I understand this, and I've been following this now, the courthouse debacle for years, you're kind of one of the first people out of the box saying this is a problem. And weren't you pretty much an advocate against the Better Jacksonville plan?
I was against this courthouse plan since even before we did the Better Jacksonville plan. I've seen it coming for a long time. Even before the Better Jacksonville plan was talked about, John Delaney and...
Seen it coming. Isn't that what prescient means? Does that mean you've seen it coming? Is that the definition of prescient?
I don't want to boast too much because sometimes things go right past me. But
well, Andy, we're going to take a short break, all right? But we're going to come right back. Hold that thought. We're going to be right back with Civil Discourse. My guest is Andy Johnson. He's the host of Down to Business with Andy Johnson. You're watching Civil Discourse, program brought to you by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. My name is Ken Hurley. We'll be right back.
Look what John Ashcroft is doing to our Constitution. He seized powers for the Bush administration no president should ever have. The right to investigate you for what you say. The right to intrude on your privacy. The right to hold you in jail without charging you with a crime. John Ashcroft, he's supposed to defend the Constitution, not rewrite it. The American Civil Liberties Union. For 80 years, we've led the fight to defend your freedoms. Join us.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
In these turbulent times, let us not erode the liberties our country was built on.
Let it shine.
Hello, welcome back to Civil Discourse. My name is Ken Hurley. You're watching a program sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. And my guest today is Andy Johnson, the host of Down to Business with Andy Johnson. Andy, where we left off, you were talking about the Better Jacksonville ban, how you opposed that, and part of the reason was, just sum that up real quickly and then take it back to what's wrong with this courthouse, and then we'll move on.
I'm for progress, and I'm pro-growth, and I could have easily been for the Better Jacksonville plan with some refinement if we had put some of the more important things in there and had omitted some of the things that were less important. But this was the one great, big, giant omnibus bond issue that was supposed to take care of us for 30 years, and it was missing some of the priorities, including some of the things that are not priorities. And here we go, the arena, the baseball park, the equestrian center, all have been over budget. The other media has told you that they were under budget. I don't understand how a TV station or a newspaper can just make up things like that, but they've been all over budget. It's just untrue when you hear people saying that they were under budget.
Okay.
And then now we have this courthouse that is just way light years over budget. And what I want to get out to the community is that if we let them do this, then the money that we thought we were going to get for the lighting for our playgrounds, the money that we thought we were going to get for more soccer fields, baseball fields, football fields, the money that we thought we were going to get for the drainage, which we keep, anytime we have a bond issue, we run out to Northside and say, hey, all you black folks, vote for this, we're going to get your drainage, and then we don't do the drainage. And then the money we thought we were going to get for toxic ash cleanup. All these things are not going to happen if we do the courthouse.
Right. Well, it's an interesting concept. I mean, Jacksonville, you got the north side, the south side, the west side. We don't have an east side. Well, I don't know what that's called over then. I guess the beaches area or something to that effect. But when you say all the black folk in the north side, I mean,
We've been doing this for 30 years. We keep saying, we're going to get your drainage, vote for our bond issue, and then they don't get drainage. Okay. We keep doing this trick, and
so people's properties are flooding, and their businesses are flooding as a result of the lack of drainage that could easily be fixed?
The drainage could be easily fixed out there in the 20th Street area, Edgewood Avenue area, Sutel, Moncrief, Myrtle. That area we could fix. It really doesn't have to be this way, and it wouldn't be any giant cost. But the things that are more important are getting sucked up, getting gobbled up by this courthouse, this runaway courthouse. And I'm angry about some of the lies that are being told in the community. Judge Soud is out on the campaign trail telling folks that the canon design for the courthouse meets the specs that were set up in the design competition, and that's just flat out not true. It does not meet the specs. And he's out there telling them that the KBJ plan does not meet the specs. Again, that's not true. And KBJ does meet the specs.
And in order to prove this, there's lots of documents that one would have to wade through. This is, I mean, we can hear you say this, but in order to actually verify this, we'd have to read through the rules of the competition, the bidding process, and then read through what was submitted, and then look for ourselves. But you're saying that's all available, and the average individual, if they had the time, inclination, could go find that and do it.
Well, even among the folks who are close to the project and who are on the other side of this issue, in most situations they would normally freely admit that, yes, Andy is right, that canon design does not comply with the specs, but there are other reasons we've decided we like canon design. It's just outrageous that they go out there and just make up this whopper that canon actually complies. Canon does not comply. It does not comply.
Well, there's something that nobody seems to dispute, and that's the budget, and that it is clearly over what was projected whenever the 190 figure was projected, then the 211 figure, then the 232, then the 268, then the 280, then the 311, 325. You know, I don't know what number it's at right now. I really don't know. I can't pay attention that much. It's happening so quickly, it's rising so fast. I don't know where we are today, and where will we be a year and a half from now or 2 years from now. I know steel prices have gone up, labor is only going up. There are reasons, but not that much. The question now should be asked, is this the right courthouse for Jacksonville at this time? And I don't know. I mean, we all can answer that a little differently.
And then there's the additional consideration. Not only we have the problem of all those things we lose that we could have done with that money.
Right.
But beyond that, what if we ever need to do another bond issue in this city? The people will have learned that we can't trust our political leaders. They lie to us. There may be a bond issue that's important sometime, and people need to know that they can trust the mayor. You can't burn up this trust and just throw it away like this. Right now, if the mayor doesn't reverse course, he's going to fix this community so that in the next 30 years you could never, ever persuade the public to vote yes on a bond issue.
My goodness. Well, how often do you get to speak to the mayor? Does he talk with you?
No, the
does he take
mayor's
your
a
calls?
strange bird. The mayor will not even talk with even his best friends, the people who put him there, the people who are contributors, the unions, like the firefighters union or the police union, the unions that were key to his campaign. If you have the leader of one of those unions stop by the office and say, could I speak to Mayor Payton for just a minute? No, but maybe if you call back in 3 months, we can work you in. He's cut himself off from people who do care about him and would like to help him be a good mayor.
Well, there are other people we can go to. If we can't reach the mayor, we can go down to do what the concerned taxpayers are doing, and people can go down and express their opinion, either in the way that you see it, or maybe something slightly differently, or maybe totally in opposition of you. But your experience down at City Council, do you sense that most of the public is in agreement with you from those who are speaking? Or are there those that say, yes, we need this courthouse at any cost because we need the room? And it's also interesting to note that you cited a judge as one who would be in support of this courthouse, because this is a very opulent, almost an ostentatious kind of a design. It's huge and probably can be seen for miles as you're driving up to Jacksonville.
Most of the judges don't think we ought to go with the Cannon design plan, but most of the judges defer to the bullies who are out there representing the judges, saying that, oh, we're all for it. Most of the council is not for this $325 million plan. Almost all the council is against it. However, there are some council members who are intimidated by the mayor, who have been threatened by the mayor. There's one council member who has totally reversed her position on the courthouse just in return for getting a particular traffic light she wanted in her district. If you're going to sell out, hold out for something more than a traffic light.
Now, you're bringing up some pretty strong charges. And I just want to point out that there is, what we do here at Civil Discourse is done in a civil manner, and all of the ideas are allowed to be brought up here. And some of the ideas that you offer may not coincide with the positions that the ACLU takes. For example, the ACLU, as an organization, takes no position on the courthouse. That's not a constitutional issue, either the Florida Constitution or the United States Constitution. But it is an issue for the public, and it is something that can be talked about, and that's what we're trying to do here at Civil Discourse.
Why is it that people always need to make disclaimers when I start talking?
That's a good question, Andy. What is it about you that you, where does that fit?
But look, I've got a challenge. I tell you what, I think that John Payton or Judge Moran or Judge Soud ought to come up here on your show, or if you're tied up, come up here on my radio show, and let's clear up some of the confusion. They're out there saying things that aren't true.
Well, we have an expression at this program on Civil Discourse at the end, and if you watch the credits at the end, you'll hear it again. But it goes, let us know, friend or foe, we want you on the show. We rhyme here, too. All right? We do. We want people of opposing viewpoints, both dealing with civil liberty and civil rights issues and other issues that we have to deal with in Jacksonville, in the greater Jacksonville area. So you have been, for example, won an award from Folio Weekly in 2001. Do you remember that award? The best...
The Gadfly Award.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, oh, he's a gadfly. Gadfly is a persistent kind of a critter, a fly that bites the horses and that kind of thing, and it's very annoying. But there's something credible about a gadfly in that they are persistent. And that's one of the things that you have to be in order to effectuate change. If you just make your statement and then say, well, I said what I had to say, and walk away, the powers that be are going to say,
well,
that's
you
the end
always
of him.
turn these things so nicely, Ken. I don't like being called a gadfly because I think it implies that I'm unsuccessful. You think of gadflies as being people that are always pestering you about something, but they never succeed. I'm not in this for a show or for a game or to just fool around about it. I love Jacksonville. For me, it's just simply that I love Jacksonville. I regard Payton as an interloper. He hasn't normally lived in Jacksonville. I don't think he normally will the rest of his life. I'm committed to Jacksonville. I think what he's doing is bad for my city. I want those playgrounds. I want the lighting for the playgrounds. I want the drainage.
Well, isn't it true that Jacksonville boasts the most acreage of playgrounds of any city in the country?
No. We boast that we own more land than any other city owns.
Okay.
We have, by far, fewer active, usable playgrounds than almost any city in America.
I read somewhere recently where Jacksonville is claiming to have more playgrounds than any other city.
Yeah. Oh, we brag about all the land that we own. We have bought up lots and lots of land to enrich the friends of the mayor, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. But it's not that we've turned that land into anything useful for the public. We own lots of land that is off limits to the public. And as far as active playgrounds, slides, seesaws, the swing set, active playgrounds, we're doing worse than almost any city I know.
Well, now, Andy, you can be heard on a regular basis in Jacksonville every single night on a radio station that's AM 970, the winner, I think it's called. And you've been doing this radio program Down to Business for about 15 to 20 years, somewhere in there.
About 15 years.
A long time. And one way or another, you are a survivor. And that is the persistence of you. Your persistence allows you to be that survivor. And if people wanted to listen to you and phone in and say, Andy, I agree with you, more power to you, you'll listen to them. And if somebody wanted to phone in and say, Andy, you just don't get it, you'll give them time on your program too?
Well, one of my mottos is never neutral, but always fair. I'm not neutral, but I bend over backwards to give extra time to the people who want to disagree with me.
So they can call in on.
Absolutely.
And now, what is your web page? How can they can get all of the information?
They can get everything they want from my website,
which is appearing on the scroll too.
Downtobusiness.org. www.downtobusiness.org.
And there's a call-in number there, and there's other numbers to get in touch with you.
We have a call-in number and a toll-free call-in number and the off-air phone number and the email address.
Could you stream on the internet so if people?
We're live on the internet, and
right.
and it's easy to tune in to us on the internet. Some radio shows are sort of obnoxious. You have to register and get a password and all kinds of.
Right.
You just click on and there you are.
All right. Now you're on weeknights from about 7 to 10 in the evening.
Well, 7 to 9 most nights.
7 to 9 most nights, 2 hours a night.
With some
That's
exceptions.
Good. All right. So, and some of the other things that you've gotten yourself involved in, another fine mess we've gotten ourselves into, is you've been outspoken on the Fuller Warren Bridge and dumping that into the river, outspoken on the Coliseum.
I've never heard of any city or any state government proposing to do anything more insulting to the people of the city than to take the Fuller Warren Bridge. They wanted to blow it up and drop the whole thing in the river.
Where did they put the Coliseum? Is that in the river? No, we don't know that. I'm just, but the Fuller Warren Bridge, you wanted to leave that as a fishing pier.
Well, I don't care about fishing at all. Don't care about fishing.
All right, we're going to wrap this up, Andy. You've
but
been
I want
great.
to save that old bridge. It would be nice to be able to walk out there.
You can hear more of Andy Johnson on Down to Business with Andy Johnson on AM 970 weeknights at 9 to 10 in the evenings every weeknight. Check him out. Check out his webpage. He is not shy. He's not bashful. He has an opinion about everything. My name is Ken Hurley. Andy, I hope you'll come back.
Thank you very much.
You've been watching
Ken.
Civil Discourse sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union. We'll see you next time. You have been watching a public access television program called Civil Discourse, sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. The ACLU is a private, nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization. Our mission is to protect and advance the civil liberties and civil rights guaranteed by the United States Constitution, especially the principles contained in the Bill of Rights. We want to hear from you. Send us an email. Share your views and opinions. If you're interested in appearing on the program, let us know. Friend or foe, we want you on the show. You may contact the ACLU in the following ways. Our telephone number is 904-396-5242. Our post office box is 5331 Jacksonville, Florida 32247. And our email address is aclujax@yahoo.com. My name is Ken Hurley. Thank you for participating in Civil Discourse.